Coming up on a Father's Day Sports Extra, like father, like son, how one Mid-Missouri team is more than just a father-son relationship. What could have been, but oh man, what still was. A deeper look into just how good a former Mizzou Tiger has been on the mound lately. And the Redbirds and Royals play on Father's Day. See how they did and see a lot more coming up right now on Sports Extra with Chris Gervino. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight, and welcome to Sports Extra. I'm Chris Gervino. Great to have you with us. Happy Father's Day. The Cardinals spent this day in Philadelphia looking to sweep their three-game series with the lowly Phillies. Dads and kids looking to watch baseball, and they saw good things if they're Philly fans because, boy, the Phils showed up today. Cody Ashley doubles to right off Michael Wacha. Dominic Brown races home, and the Phils on the board. Later, it is Cesar Hernandez with a single to score Cameron Rupp and Freddie Galvis. And the Phils out to a 3-0 lead in the second inning. The Cards would get on the board thanks to Johnny Peralta. He launches his 11th home run of the year, but it would not nearly be enough. Phils avoid a sweep. Adam Morgan strikes out 6 as the Phils flatten the Cards 9-2. How about the Royals? Christian Colon giving Mike Moustakas the day off. The Boston Red Sox in town. Teams will split the first 2 games of their set. And Alcides Escobar, the shortstop, just a dazzling play with a barehanded grab. He very likely on his way to an all-star appearance in a few weeks as you get another look at the great defensive work. No one's going to catch this, though, at least not in the field of play. Hanley Ramirez takes Chris Young deep over the wall and left. Boston up 1-0. Then in the 4th inning, it's David Ortiz moving into the 29th spot on the all-time home run list. He hammers this one to right. And Boston belts Kansas City 13-2. Red Sox win the series 2-1. Mad Max has done well in the theaters, but another Mad Max has been on the bump for the Nationals. Last Sunday, a week ago, former Mizzou star Max Scherzer pitched a gem for the Nationals, but he actually eclipsed that performance Saturday. Scherzer had, well, something special going into the 9th inning. A perfect game, in fact, against the Pittsburgh Pirates. And then in the 9th, he hits Jose Tabata with the pitch. Of course, Tabata didn't try to get out of the way. Actually might have leaned in, but it's a hit batsman. So long for the perfect game, but Max Scherzer did manage to get the next batter to fly out to left to end it. And Scherzer celebrates a no-hitter, if not a perfect game, for the Washington Nationals. Now, that was a tough one for Max. Remember this, though, a few years ago, Detroit and Cleveland, Armando Galarraga for the Tigers, perfect through 8 2/3. Jim Joyce, the umpire at first, calls the base runner, Jason Donald, safe. It would turn out to be a bad call. Of course, there was no replay involved, so not only did Galarraga lose a perfect game, but he lost a no-hitter as this was ruled an infield hit, despite the fact the batter should have been out. Well, Max Scherzer has really been going strong. Look at this. Last week, the one-hit shutout against Milwaukee, struck out 16. Last night, Saturday evening, he was perfect through 8 2/3, then gave up the hit batsman, but he struck out 10. So 57 batters in the final 2 games he's pitched. 54 of them have been retired. He struck out 26, allowed just 1 hit, 1 walk, 1 hit batter. Could be back-to-back performances, perhaps the 2 greatest ever. They would have to be on anybody's short list. So now our trivia question comes to you in this form. Before last night, and Max Scherzer's effort, had a former Missouri Tiger ever thrown a no-hitter in Major League Baseball? The answer comes your way later in our program. Well, a weekend filled with wet grounds and dry land, actually. High scores, not dry land, high scores. That wouldn't make sense to have wet grounds and dry land. It was tough in Chambers Bay out in the state of Washington. A lot of golfers weren't happy with the course. Louis Oosthuizen didn't seem bothered. He played great. What about this shot here on the final round today? Look at that. It is in for Oosthuizen as he got it to drop. That was for a birdie because he had hit his tee ball off, but really recovered well. Jordan Spieth makes this long birdie putt. Was seemingly in control with 2 shots to go, but he struggled on the next to last hole. Dustin Johnson did really well until the 18th green. He was on the par 5 and 2, could have made an eagle putt for a victory, then couldn't make the birdie putt for a tie to force a playoff. He three-putted. And Spieth escapes with the win. How about Jordan Spieth? 21 years old, won the first two majors of the year, the Masters and now the U.S. Open. The College World Series is winding down. Vanderbilt had already clinched a spot in the best-of-3 championship series between the final two teams. Vandy's the defending champ. Last night, Florida looked to make it an all-SEC World Series. Florida and Virginia in an elimination game. The winner would meet Vanderbilt in the best-of-3 series this week for the national title. Matt Tice strikes first for the Cavaliers. The home run gives Virginia a 1-0 lead over the Gators. But Florida chomps back. Peter Alonso with a shot to deep center field. Florida with that swing on top by a score of 2-1. It's a 2-2 score in the fifth inning when Florida's left fielder Harrison Bader, a Cardinal draft pick in the third round just a couple weeks ago, hits his 17th home run of the year. Gators up 3-2, but Virginia fights back and wins it 5-4 for the second year in a row. Virginia will beat Vanderbilt in the championship series of the College World Series. Well, George Young is here with us now on our hot seat. George is the sports director at KFRU Radio. And George, first of all, happy Father's Day.
Well, thank you, Chris, and I'm happy we're celebrating. I got a gift. I actually have a hot seat to sit on.
Yes, you do. That's right. We've changed things up here recently. And George, though, is the proud father of 5, and boy, you got your own basketball team, you and Julia, don't you?
No vertical and no outside jumper, so we're kind of hosed on that one right now, especially the way the NBA is going.
You got enough to play, though. Okay, George, let's talk Cardinal and Royal baseball. Cards first, winning weekend, but a losing Sunday for them in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and really kind of shocking way with Michael Wacha going down today, with giving up 7 runs, and out of that game earlier with the Cardinals, the one you didn't expect a win was Tyler Lyons on Friday night, but 12 runs, 10 runs, and then the one today against Wacha. All in all, good weekend. I think you still have to be long-term concerned in the next 30 days. How do you balance out all the injuries? Matt Holliday, DL, Matt Adams gone for the year, Adam Wainwright, Lance Lynn, who's supposed to come back in Miami, but still a lot of hits on that depth for the St. Louis Cardinals.
They've really been able to withstand a lot so far, the Royals. And then you have the Cardinals. Then you have the Kansas City All-Stars, also known as the Royals, and they had a rough weekend at home against Boston. And my concern with them is the starting pitching. You talk about injuries. Donovan Turner, the 15-day DL. Chris Young gets roughed up. Of course, he's been good for them for the most part this season, but I wonder if they have enough starting pitching.
Well, and if you look at their DL, 8 of their key injuries are all pitching staff, including Danny Duffy, Jason Vargas, now Yordano Ventura with the ulnar
60% of your rotation.
That's asking an awful lot out of the guy you got from Pittsburgh in a trade. And then what do you do about Jeremy Guthrie? A good start out of him is 6 innings and 3 runs. He got that, and they got it and got a good start. But long term, the offense is good, but can the pitching keep the other team's offense down? I'm really starting to have concerns about that, especially when you start getting your big guys dropping.
Yeah, well, I think you said the key word for both teams, long term. That's the question. So far, so good. Both in first place with fairly decent leads, but you wonder if they can sustain. George, hang out with us if you would. We'll come back with more.
Okay.
Welcome back, everyone, to Sports Extra with Chris Gervino. Races at Double X Speedway in California have just ended. KOMU8's Luke Slaybaugh joins us now live from the racetrack to tell us how one team is celebrating Father's Day. Luke?
There were questions about whether or not the rain would postpone these races, but you know who's really happy they didn't postpone them? The Spry family. Racing has become a family tradition for team number 3, and a very special one. Bill Spry loves racing. So much so, it's become a family affair.
I started this mess a long time ago and couldn't give it up, and so I decided I'd get my son into a bad habit, got my grandsons into it.
Always had either a car in the shop or the garage of a race car of some kind, and started going with him, and then he eventually asked me if I wanted to drive the car. I was more than happy to.
Grandpa Bill and Uncle Kyle passed it on to the teenagers. Jordan is 18, Garrett is 14. But don't be fooled by their age. These are seasoned veterans.
Since I was 4, so quite a while.
Keep your eye on Jordan. He's headed to the NASCAR Technical Institute in Mooresville, North Carolina this fall to chase his dream.
The dream is to drive and be a NASCAR driver, but I'm gonna try to be a pit crew so I know how everything works and I know what's happening whenever I become a driver.
Each member of the Spry family says they owe their success to each other.
My grandpa's been my biggest inspiration.
To hear people talk about the number 3 racing team, how good the kids are, they're good drivers, makes Pops feel pretty proud. That's the best part, is time together.
And just the camaraderie of the family and friends at a racetrack is different than any other sporting event.
For all the talk of Father's Day, Bill met his first love, racing, through someone else.
Actually, my mother started taking me to the races, and it bit me.
That was 1966. Almost 50 years and 3 generations later, the family tradition is just beginning.
Whenever I have kids, I hope to get them into racing too, so, and all started back at Grandpa, so.
Once again, George Young from KFRU Radio is with us. George, what a weekend for former Missouri Tiger Max Scherzer. Almost a perfect game, but he had a no-hitter.
He got the no-hitter, got the shutout, and you look at Jose Tabata and you go, you know, son, I'm not sure how bad a violation of the unwritten rules of baseball that is, but that's got to be right up there on page number 1.
You think he leaned in, huh?
Yeah. He leaned in, dipped the elbow, and went, oh, you hit me. I'm on first base. No perfect game.
It's interesting. In the college game, you see the batters kept right there, often by umpires when that happens. Majors, you hardly ever see that, at least in my experience.
Yeah, you hardly ever do. In fact, if you watch the Florida-Virginia game on Saturday, the exact same thing happened. The Florida hitter was hit by the pitch, and the umpire said, stay right here. You made no effort to get out of the way.
Well, Max's last 2 starts, he struck out 26. You know, just been outstanding with his effort. Just the one hit. I mean, this guy is just on fire now pitching. We'll likely see him in the All-Star game again.
Yeah, you probably will.
This time for the National League.
Yeah, and that'll be a little bit different for the American League because they'll have the book on them. But, you know, the one thing about Max that you always enjoyed is he does his homework prior to the game, and he's got a plan going out there. There's too many of these young guys that you see out there. It's fly by the seat of your pants and hope it works well. Max does his homework, executes his plan, and what Detroit was not able to do that Washington is give him some run support. He has gotten a lot of run support so far this year, and right now that contract that he signed somewhere north of $175 million looks pretty darn swift.
Looks like a bargain the way he's gone.
Bargain basement. Renegotiate, I hear.
They could be competition for the Cardinals in the NL, that Washington ball club with its pitching staff and hitting ability, don't you think?
Yeah, probably so, and I think this is going to be the one team that I don't think they sit anybody down this year. They're probably looking back 3 years ago, 4 years ago now, and going, man, we shouldn't have.
With Steven Strasburg. Well, he'll probably be ready this time around. I would agree with you. Hey, George, thanks for coming out. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that.
All right, that is George Young, KFRU Radio Zone. And now it's time for tonight's trivia. Welcome back, everyone, to Sports Extra with Chris Gervino, and thank you for staying with us. We appreciate it. Our final segment of the program, that means time to answer tonight's Sports Extra sports trivia question. Earlier in our program, we asked you this question. Before last night, had a former Missouri Tiger ever thrown a no-hitter in the Major League? Max Scherzer did it yesterday, and the answer is yes, it actually had been done before. Pitcher Sonny Siebert of the Cleveland Indians on June 10th, 1966, against the Washington Senators. Of course, Senators eventually became the Texas Rangers. Sonny Siebert in that game struck out 7 and walked just 1. Folks, that is our program for tonight. Thank you very much for watching. John Zupan and Jen McMillan, our producers. Mike Henke, our director. I'm Chris Gervino. We'll see you tomorrow night at 6 and 10. So long, everybody.